I am talking to, oh, now we are live. Today we're talking to Annie Bulloch, who is a friend of mine and who I thought you would like to hear from because she has a lot of really interesting experience for us to talk about. So I'm going to switch over to you. So Annie, can you talk a little bit about the you've had an unusual career path, but I think we think of it as unusual, but I don't actually think it's very unusual for today's job market in that you've done a little bit of everything in marketing and in owning your own business. So
That's true. When I studied in school, I did a lot of mass media writing. Writing was what I kind of focused on. I took, radio, TV, film classes, and production and things like that. But right out of school, I did a lot of different things. I thought maybe I would get into screenwriting or something like that. I ended up getting a job with a corporate in a corporate environment that was a company that supplied pharmaceutical stuff to pharmacies. Um, I don't work there now, so I don't have to give them the whole speech about what they do. But that was an interesting job because it was B2B, a lot of it, because it was our company selling to pharmacies, which were all independents, and so they were small businesses. Do what?
yeah, business to business. Most of
Yes.
our students know what that is, but some of them. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I came from communications, not marketing, but I've picked up a lot of that gross marketing jargon in the interim. So, and you probably will too, and that's okay. Um, but so we were selling our products, of course, to pharmacies, but we also, as part of our department, created marketing materials to sell or provide to our members, the pharmacies, so they could promote products to their patients. So that was a B2C thing where you had to sort of be able to switch mentally from the one perspective to the other. Why so I needed to know, why do these products benefit the pharmacy, but also what's great about them that they can sell it then to a customer. Why should you use this cream base that does this and that as opposed to the other thing? Because the pharmacy and the patient have some similar concerns, but a lot of different ones too. So you had to be able to switch it up, and know a lot about the different aspects of it. So that was a corporate job. I did that for about 10 years. While I was doing that, we also opened my own business on the side. I own a comic book and gaming store with my husband and another partner, and I'm the director of marketing for that business. So that is, of course, mostly business to consumer, where we have customers who walk in and want comics and games. But we even then deal with businesses sometimes, like if we are dealing with a publisher, I say there were a lot of very small, independent, small press comics that come out where it's really just a person or two people who are writing and drawing something and printing it up themselves and physically coming to your shop to sell it to you,
Nice.
which is great. That's something we really like to do. But even then, like, that's a business, and even if it's a little bit bigger, like we're in the process right now of working with a publisher that's a little bit more well known. I'm not going to say which one, but nerds would have heard. To get a writer and an artist in who have a new series coming out in a couple of months, and we want to bring them in, and so we work with the publisher to help promote that, but that's business to business marketing in the sense that I'm talking to the publisher saying, hey, we're a good business that's, it makes sense for you to send your person to them and to promote this event because we're not going to mess it up, and we'll do a good job of representing your product
Yeah.
in that way. And so there's a lot of different ways to do that. And on top of everything else, I've also done freelance writing, both for writing like blogs and things for websites, but also freelancing for individual corporate clients to write different things. Like I had a freelance client that was a catering company that was very fine, fancy catering, and they did a lot of weddings and big parties and that type of thing, but they also did corporate catering. So again, that you had to be able to look at it as a business to business perspective, as well as business to consumer. Because of course you can write about, oh, well, here's why you should let us cater your wedding, but you have different concerns if you are the person who is arranging catering for a corporate event where your high dollar clients are coming in and you need to close a big deal and you want to impress them, and everybody's a lot happier and more willing to sign contracts if they ate something that was good and everyone's feeling good.
Yeah.
And that's a big thing. There's a lot of psychology and studies and stuff on that. But so the person that you're then selling to is whoever it is who's in charge of setting up that meal, so they need to know that you're going to show up and be on time and be acceptable in a corporate environment, and that it's going to be good and that everything's going to run smoothly. So that's one thing they don't have to worry about, because it's not just you might ruin my wedding, which is also a big deal, but you could blow this big deal and you'll make me look bad in front of all of my, the executives here and everything. So there's a lot that goes into that. So you had to really be able to understand all of those perspectives and write to that in a way that makes people feel comfortable. Like, okay, good. I feel relaxed about this company's going to do a good job, and I'm gonna have good food, but most importantly, my guests will be impressed and everything will go smoothly. Um,
It was just the notion of no understanding the audience that you're working for and then tailoring specifically to that audience.
right. Yeah, and you really it's good to be versatile in the way that you're looking at that, because the subtle changes in audience and what you're if you're writing for a corporate client or whoever it is, what do they want?
Mm-hmm.
Because it wasn't just I'm selling my catering services to this person, but I'm selling this company's catering services to someone else on their behalf. So I had to make sure you've got to be able to match the tone that the business likes to present. Sometimes that changes depending on who they want to, who specifically they're marketing to. If you've
Mm-hmm.
got a campaign that's aimed at millennials or something like that, you might do one thing. But if it's for people who you know you're assuming are maybe a little older and doing whatever else, that you're gonna address that differently. Sometimes you have
Maybe
to
don't want to be the bad boy caterer of fire to a corporate event.
yeah, exactly. It's like maybe that's a package that we offer, but we can be whatever and whoever. That's not there's you'll see that sometimes where it's very particular niche marketing, and that can work if you know who your audience is and you feel like there's enough of them that you could do that in your business, then great. Like, and there are these billboards in Austin for a guy whose name I don't remember, but he's the rock and roll lawyer, and he's
Oh,
got
nice.
dreads and a beard and all this stuff. And so it's very like, oh, he's rad, he's gonna be your lawyer. And like that's a weird gimmick, but I don't remember the guy's name, but I do remember that he had that gimmick, and I could probably
I
Google
can see
Austin
that
rock
working
and
in
roll lawyer
Austin.
and find him. So,
Yeah.
but also there are a lot of people who are like, no, thank you, that is absolutely not what I want, and maybe he doesn't want those clients either, and just wants to let him know. So I don't know what he does, but that's an interesting approach.
There's a guy
Uh,
here, a lawyer here in Pittsburgh, who's just, his entire campaign apparently is just him in a suit in front of a picture of lions. And
okay,
I guess that's saying it all. He's something liony for you and the law. And
right.
I remembered it, so it's working on some level.
Right. But it doesn't tell you much about, what kind of law, or,
Yeah,
what's he doing when he's not
law.
hanging out with lions.
That's true. Huh?
Yeah,
So would you say that freelance writing or any kind of marketing writing would be not only knowing your audience but also the identity that you're putting on for that particular client?
absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like being an actor or something. You kind of have to be able to put yourself in the mindset of, okay, now I'm this client. I wrote website copy for a medical practice that does vein surgery, all kinds of different, vein related procedures. Um, and so you had to be able to put on, I'm a doctor. I know all about this. We are experts in this field. I have all this and this and this. And also I want you to feel comfortable and feel like, hey, it's a good decision for you to come here. You're going to be well taken care of. I can explain this procedure to you and your condition to you in a way that you will understand. We're not here to try to freak you out. I don't want to be scary. It's just like, here's the information that you need, and to put people at ease, so to give them enough information that they would say, yeah, okay, I need this service, and I should call this particular place instead of the 15 other vein clinics that there might be in a city. I mean, I'm in Houston, which has an enormous medical center and a whole lot of medical stuff, and there are definitely a lot of places, including Pittsburgh, that have a pretty strong medical and pharmaceutical industry where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of opportunities in that. Everything from individual practices where you might be dealing with one or two doctors to enormous hospitals and related things like that. So you do have to be able to get into different mindsets. Like, what if you're writing for your audience's parents of children who have some kind of medical condition, and they need this help? So now you're writing to parents about medical stuff on behalf of whatever. So you have to add those different layers, just to whatever you're saying, and so to be able to sort of put on those hats, so it is kind of, and there's a little bit of acting you do while you're sitting at your laptop, uh, in a lot of ways, trying to put yourself in the mindset of whoever the speaker is supposed to be, and imagining that you're having this conversation with whoever your intended audience is. Um,
Right.
so that kind of versatility is good. And like, if you've gotten into communications and media, there's a good chance that you like to watch and or write a lot of movies and TV shows and all different types of things. Like, it's good to think about that. Look at different things that are written by a writer. I mean, yeah, you can look at this in marketing stuff, but look for versatile people who can write, something where their characters don't all sound the same. That can be cool and that can be stylized, but it doesn't make you somebody who can get a job just anywhere. You have to
That's
be.
one of the things that I've been talking about with our students is that communication majors are more versatile because we're better at a little bit of everything. It can
Right.
also make it a little harder to narrow down, this is my one true career path.
Right.
Um, but I think that that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, because I don't necessarily think that everyone needs one true career path,
Yeah.
because we're going to change quite a bit in our lifetime and do many different things. The average worker now changes not just jobs, but careers 7 times. And so I think with the writing skills and the being able to interact with humans, I feel like that helps.
Right.
And I know that you're very good at all of those. So that's one of the reasons why.
I do it. I do it. I can. Yeah, it really is true. You're not going to do what my grandfather did, which is he got out of high school and he got a job with the local power company and he worked for them for 40 years and retired.
Right.
He had one job. I mean, he got promoted within, but it was one career and one career path. Some people do that, but not that many. There are so many people who, yeah, straight up change careers, go to nursing school in their 40s and decide they want to do something totally different when they had a
My
marketing
neighbor
degree.
did that in her 50s. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a good friend who I've known for a long time, who she initially was a hairdresser. She then went and got a marketing degree. She ended up working in law firms and doing things because it ended up being kind of a communications thing. And then she went to nursing school and now she is a nurse for like newborn babies. So that's a very different, yeah, but that's not uncommon. It used to be, you would think, oh, well, I'm going to be on this path, but unless you're going into like neurosurgery or something that's very regimented like that, you have no idea what you're going to
Right.
end up doing and what's going to happen in your life. You just don't know. So versatility is good. So when you get curveballs thrown at you, or you get into that job you thought was your dream job, and you're like, I don't like this. I thought I would enjoy this, and it's actually terrible. Um,
We've all
it's
been there. Yeah.
like, that's okay. That's not a failure on your part. You can't know. everything. You can't know what something is really going to be like. Although I do recommend internships if you can get one. That's something I didn't have, and so I have fallen into a lot of different careers and things. But
Well, I always say when you get into something and decide that it's not for you, that's not a failure. That's an education, right?
yes,
Because you don't learn by being successful at everything.
right. You should never stop learning and changing and growing in all kinds of ways, not just as a person. But yeah, I'll tell you, I occasionally will see things on Facebook from people I went to high school with 20 years ago, and some of their just kind of dumb comments, and I think, you were supposed to keep learning stuff after high school. Like like you weren't done when you graduated. That's called commencement for a reason, because you're beginning some things.
Beginning.
That was the bare minimum of things you were supposed to maybe know. um
Can you
yeah.
talk a little bit about how you have found some of those freelance gigs?
Oh gosh. I found a couple of them, believe it or not, on Craigslist. They, in the which I know everybody goes, ew, Craigslist, and be careful.
I've had kind of jobs on Craigslist. I have.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I found a couple of different ones where they just had it in the jobs section locally, looking for writers, looking for marketing. Most of the ones I think I found were for the writer, like the catering company, came through that. And those actually can be sort of easier jobs to get than something like LinkedIn or that kind of thing, because you get some of the smaller businesses who are just, I just want someone to write for me and do this, not I have this whole giant department and I want to go through a whole lot of hoops and do a list. They just want the job done. And so that can be a good way to find some good clients. Or like if you can get in there and do a good job for them, they're excited. That particular one, they thought they might need somebody full time. And so, I was interested in doing that. And what they learned from hiring me, getting me to do some freelance work for them, is they didn't need a full timer. They just needed someone to come in and do freelance occasionally. So it was
You were
kind of
way
like,
too
oh,
efficient.
well, I didn't get but I got a little bit of work from it, and it was interesting. Um, I also I met someone, professional networking, another thing that sounds very businessy and boring and everything, but it's a good idea because I uh, met someone who works locally. She works for an ad agency. She's also a writer, and they needed some freelancers. They just had too much work, too many things going on, but didn't need to hire anybody else permanently. So they were looking for freelancers, and she was familiar with my work from other things, so she brought me on. I have another thing that is in the works right now. That's also someone who I used to work with in a department, who was familiar with my work and knew that I did a good job. So now she works for a very big famous thing that you've heard of that I can't tell you. It's like, it sounds jerky and name dropping. I'm sorry, but she knows that I can write about a certain type of thing, and so she recommended me when they were looking for freelancers.
Hmm.
So that's exciting. So some of it's, you just get started, and you might end up working in a marketing department where you're just sitting in a cube writing some things to put in a little ad that they're putting somewhere on a brochure, and it's nothing glamorous and exciting, but it's a good way to hone some skills
Hmm.
and learn how to just learn how it works, learn some of that terminology, and learn what your strengths are and where some of your weaknesses are, and what you can do to build that up. If you can get a company that will, in some kind of corporate environment, that will like pay for you to join professional organizations, or to get additional skills, take little one-off classes and things to help improve your skills, because they want you to do that so that you'll do it for them. But when you leave, you get to take those skills with you. So there's a lot
Right.
of things.
One of the things we're trying to do is start a PRSSA chapter,
Oh yeah.
which is Public Relations something Society of America.
Hmm.
I'm not great at acronym, but we're trying to get that so that our students can join that at some point.
Okay. Yeah, there's a PRSA chapter here that I've gone to an event or two before. And yeah, and that can be interesting. You get all kinds of perspectives from people who are doing different types of work that all fall under that umbrella. But there's so much variety. Um,
I know you've also written for some different websites, some paid, some not paid.
Right.
And, do you feel like that's done any sort of work at getting your name out there, or?
It has in some ways, and including some of the unpaid stuff did when I didn't really have anything much under my own name, because a lot of the stuff you do for corporate doesn't have your name on it, and you say, oh well, I did that, but it could literally be anyone who did that. It just gets it out there and says, oh, okay, I can write. Here are some samples of my writing that you can then show to other people sometimes, or you get editors who will put in a good word for you and say, yeah, this person, they write well, they don't need a huge amount of editing, or whatever. They turn in their things on time and they do what they say. I mean, that's important stuff. People.
There are a surprising amount of people out there who don't do things on time or do them well.
Right. And in creative jobs, you will find that a lot. And that's really irritating for people in a corporate environment or any kind of business where you need stuff and you need it now. It's not when the muse strikes you, it's this got to be done. So
Exactly.
you have to be able to find that place where even if you're not feeling it, you can churn out something that's pretty good. Um, but yeah, so writing for different websites. I mean, I write for a website that is about comics and stuff, and I write a recipe column that's comic book themed recipes. It's pretty far afield from writing about veins or whatever else, although not too different from the catering. And it also has my own voice in it, which you don't always use, but that helps being able to express your own thoughts, in a way that connects with other people, makes you better able to do it from other people's voices too.
Mm-hmm. That makes
I think,
sense.
yeah, it
Well,
definitely since I started doing that, I got better at a lot of those other things. And social media, of course, is another career path that you could be in too, and that has its own rules and peculiarities and moves very very fast. You got to be able to keep up with that. And it's like, okay, well, what's our social media voice? How do we handle this and that? If you're somebody who's able to keep your head and really do things on the fly, that's a real skill that you can show people and say, okay, well, I ran this social media account, and when this big to do happened, I was able to handle it like this. And if there were complaints or whatever it is, if you work for a company that's big enough, some people are going to go, my order didn't get to me on time and I'm angry. And your ability to deal with that or any other questions, when you can show that to another future employer or to your employers who are like, oh, thank goodness you handled that, that could have been a huge nightmare and actually it was fine. That looks good. So get used to, there are so many different ways that you can use this. You have a lot of different parts of your brain you're using to do what people would consider the same job. So
right, right. And I know that there's and I think a lot of these bleed together, right? I think if you're doing PR at all, you should probably be at least a little bit involved in the social media aspects. And if you're doing any sort of marketing at all, you need to talk to your PR people. And a lot of companies, it's all one department now anyway. There's no longer a wall between the two, although that's
right.
how we talked about it in our intro class.
But it depends. I am doing some work, some contract work for a company right now that's in the process of a merger of two huge companies. And so we were getting a presentation on the how the marketing department at this other company is structured. And it was interesting to see how much they were, okay, well, product marketing goes through us. That's this group over here. But corporate communications, things like press releases, things that are not about products but that are about the company or whatever, that actually comes from um the executive suite. That's a different place entirely. So PR and marketing are not really the same department, but they work together a lot. And then website stuff and social media were in a completely separate department that was kind of under IT, but not really. So they essentially had somebody who was a writer, but they worked for IT, but they got information from the other two marketing sections. So there were all these different people working together in different ways. And then of course there was internal communications, which went through HR. And when you have a company with thousands of employees, you've got to be able to have good, so whatever's going to be on your intranet and the messages that go out. Hey, if you're in the middle of a big merger and your employees don't know what's happening, or if they're going to be sold off in a divestiture, or if they'll be
Exactly.
redundant or something like that, like you need to be able to really, that's a communications challenge. And so that's a good thing too. And there's a lot of communication stuff in in HR, also in ER,
Mhm.
but in HR that people don't think about very often, just because, we think about just marketing. But if you have really more than a handful of employees, there's a certain amount of, marketing and PR that you're doing for your own employees.
Right, right. And I think good organizational communication does more to keep everybody happy and there. I think it can reduce turnover rate
Yes. Oh
quite a
yeah,
bit.
sure. If
Um,
people feel like they know what's going on, if they feel like the company cares, whether they know what's going on, whether they're comfortable and is addressing their problems or their concerns, that makes a big difference. That's a corporate culture thing that is important. Uh, and the bigger a company gets, the more crucial that is in a lot of ways. Um, so yeah, and that's yet another thing to think about. Um, and sort of skills you can pick up as you go too. Look at what other, and if you have an internship or something like that, look at what they do in that company. Look at all the little bits of anything that's printed. Where did that come from? Who's it by? Who's the audience? What are they trying to accomplish with this? And you'll see good and bad examples, but it's definitely worth looking at that. One thing that I did when I was my corporate job was I was the company blood drive coordinator. So I was marketing the concept of blood drives to my coworkers, essentially, to the several hundred people who worked in that building. Hey, come get stuck with a needle and donate blood. But there's no substitute for human blood. They've got to have donors.
mhm.
So if you're an eligible donor and you're able to do that, boy, it really is helpful if you come in. We did well. The number of donors increased while I was doing that for our company, just because I was able to get the word out and reach people in a way that, sort of alleviated their fears and gave them the information that they needed.
Mhm.
And, but that's something that you can do, even if like you're, oh, well, I'm just part of this, whatever it is, look for those opportunities. You can get some experience that, hey, that's free experience. Or any kind of volunteer work. There are a lot of volunteer opportunities, for charities and various organizations where they need people with those skills, and that looks good on a resume. And if you do a good job, promoting this fundraiser, or just telling people what it is they do and why they need help, like those are great opportunities for you, and they will probably write you a nice recommendation letter, give you good reference, and that can be important in getting whatever your next job's going to be.
Definitely.
So
Okay, so as we wrap up, sort of, would you? Uh, this is terrible because I didn't ask you to prepare this, but just like what sort of advice would you give to somebody who's about to graduate, other than don't panic?
yeah, yeah, don't freak out, it's going to be okay. It will probably not turn out the way you were expecting, and that's okay. Just that's normal. Your early 20s will be a huge mess probably, and you'll be fine. uh,
And that's normal. Yeah.
that's normal. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, there are a lot of different paths you can take. If you don't get what you think you want to ultimately do right away, that's actually good. You wouldn't have the right skills, you wouldn't have the right experience if you just walked right into your dream job as you would if you kind of spend some time in the trenches, learning about different things. So get the jobs that you can get. That's, that sounds kind of boring, but you have to build a foundation. And school is good. That's where you start, but it's not everything. Just like I was saying about the my old high school cronies on Facebook, you're supposed to keep learning after you graduate. Things won't necessarily be how you expect them to be. If you've had internships and things like that, you might have a good idea, or you might get to a company that's completely different from what you were before and go, oh, okay, well, I don't, this is not what I thought this was going to be. And it's okay. Take your time. It's gonna take a few years and a few job changes probably. But y- you'll get there. You'll start to figure out what it is you like and what you're good at. And maybe it's not at all what you're thinking right now, and you go change careers and go become a nurse or a florist, whatever it is. And even if you did, I mean, when I graduated, I did not ever expect to own a comic book store. I wasn't even reading comics then. I started after I graduated college, but I got really into it and found out that it was something that I was passionate about. And then a long time went by, many years, and that opportunity presented itself, that it ended up being something where I had learned enough about marketing in other positions that I could market my own store, because just knowing about comics and games isn't enough, although that's important. Specialty
I
retail.
always say you can be an expert on anything, but if you can't market that thing, then your expertise never gets out of your own head.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, a restaurant can be amazing, but if nobody knows where it is and that it exists and what they have, so that doesn't matter. So you've got to be able to get that basic word out. There are a lot of little mom and pops that need a little bit of help, to do something. So you might be able to swoop in there and have different freelance clients that you do a little bit for. A lot of those jobs might take a little convincing for some of the people, because they're happy to hire like a freelance bookkeeper or something. They're like, marketing, I don't know, I can do this. It's like, no, you need someone to proofread that menu, and to get your social media set up and give you some basic guidelines on how to use that. Because just because you're a great chef doesn't mean you're good with words and communicating with people. Some people are great and some people just aren't, and that's okay. Boy, pharmacists, they are not writers, from what my experience was. Some of them are. Some of them who were great, but a lot of them were like, well, no, I went to pharmacy school, and so they would turn in a scientific paper for me to edit, and it would be okay. I understand what you're trying to get at, but the rules of grammar obviously eluded you completely. So you rewrite something, but all their stuff was correct. They could do their pharmacy things. There's a place for you in just about any business, any industry, and sometimes you can create a place where there wasn't one before.
Mhm.
But yeah, so when you get out into the world, just manage your expectations, I think, and I sounds cheesy, but like, get ready for an adventure, because you really don't know what's going to happen in your life, where you're going to end up, where you will move, and the things that will happen. But if you have a good foundation of skills, it makes it a lot easier to get through what you need to get through and to collect more skills. So that's what I'd say. Good luck. It's gonna be fun eventually. So
Yes.
there were plenty of days where I was like, this is dull, but that's okay. I was learning important stuff that I use now to do stuff I enjoy. So
Great. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today, and I know my students are going to really enjoy it.